This is a bit of a stream of consciousness. I don't even know if this is going to be published, but I'm making this video for me as much as I'm making it for you. In fact, it may only be for me to clarify my ideas, because I find that when I'm authentic talking to the camera, that I am talking to myself and I am bringing my thoughts out loud and outside. And it is a place where I think in front of this camera on this YouTube channel, I have grown the most as a human being, as I have unpacked the things that I have thought about, that I've read about, that have been important to me, the struggles that I've faced, and really actually tying this together to what the theme of this video is, as I've become free. So I was thinking about this a lot, about what is the purpose of Bulldog Mindset? What is my purpose? What is that you would put me in? And it was a difficult thing, because one of the things that I've struggled with this channel, with this company, with Bulldog Mindset, with my own journey, is this variety of different topics, of their interests, of things that I want to talk about. I had centered around this idea of, I think Bulldog Mindset originally started out with getting rid of the victim mindset, having the tenacity to like go after what you want in life and attack it like a bulldog, never giving up. These kind of ideas. In fact, when I look back, I have a Trello board for a book that I was going to write on Bulldog Mindset, the Bulldog Mindset book. In fact, I probably still will write this book, but the chapters in this, it was divided into 3 sections: recreate yourself, develop your inner game, and bring your best self forward. And there were chapters like define who you are, accept your current reality, take 100% responsibility for your life, reestablish trust in yourself, become consistent, how you live one day is how you live every day, survey the landscape, make a leap for the rim of the bucket, and then developing your inner game, bring a pain upon yourself, you get knocked down again, get back up again, become physically tough, learn to work without motivation, face your fears and overcome them, realize you're always alone, feel the pain, keep walking, make it life or death, trust the process, and then bring your best self forward, had face and handle rejection, stop seeking external validation, stop apologizing, don't explain, don't complain, become non-reactive, speak with conviction, make clear boundaries, become a finisher, win big, lose small, damage control, eliminate judgment calls, utilize the power of momentum, and use your secret weapon, outwork everyone. So that was originally, I think, what the concepts of Bulldog Mindset really initially were, like this idea of the Bulldog Mindset. And then it really evolved, I think, in achieving all these things. This is a very mental, stoic philosophy. You could say that it really is a branch of Stoicism. But what ended up happening was that there were these areas, because it's what I'm doing. There's the physical fitness area, the fitness and diet and health and developing your physique and your mental toughness through that, because it is so connected. And then there was the aspect of the dating and relationships. And then there's the aspect of the financial side of things. And so what ended up happening was that as I started going down this path of masculinity and figuring out what it meant to become the man that I was meant to be, I started bringing other people around on this journey, and I started making the channel about that. And that's kind of what it's always really been about. It. All of my YouTube, from when I was a simple programmer on this channel, I have a new simple programmer channel, was always about my journey in life and me sharing that journey with other people, with you guys, and helping you guys along. And when you look at YouTube today, the landscape, you've got guys like Hamza, which my opinion on him is changing. I feel like he was on the right path and now he's going down the wrong path of a very arrogant path, unfortunately. I think he'll find his way again. I still think he's a good person for a lot of you guys to follow and listen to, but you have to be careful, because I think he is falling into his own gravity. He's in a dangerous place, I think, right now. Just as I look at his Instagram and I see some of the places where he's going, that I don't think are going to take him where he needs to go. You've got people like First Man. Again, a lot of you guys watch that channel as well. And same thing, he's teaching this thing. He's doing what was the Bulldog Mindset to a degree. And you've got one of my coaching clients, Captain Sinbad, and Nikhil. He's actually on that journey. He's probably the most pure, I think, in the form of that journey. But that's what Bulldog Mindset really was. And I was trying to tie this together, because I have fitness videos, I have videos on books, summaries, because those are the things I'm doing, on running, on dating, on pickup, on game, like learning those aspects, on being a man, on mental toughness, on philosophy. There's all these things. These are the things that I'm fascinated by, that to this day consume my life, aside from maybe the dating side, but still relationship and working on that and working on those social aspects of helping other guys with that as well. That's where that all came from. But the problem is you have to be in a box, because YouTube doesn't really like you to be all over the place. And people don't in general. It's very hard to grow an audience around that, being a Renaissance man or knowing a little bit about everything. People think you don't know very much about anything, when that's the case, even though that's not the case, because I've read thousands of books and I have done the work and put in so many hours in so many different areas. And it also cross-pollinates. That's the thing about this, is becoming a Renaissance man. What people don't realize is that as you make strides and You improve in one area, you improve in another area as well, and those things connect to each other. So the thing is about this whole thing is it's been a struggle with me constantly to define what is the Bulldog mindset now. And I tried to unify everything that I was producing, and I tried to play to the algorithm a little bit. I'll be honest with that, because I want to take things to the next level and create some videos that people will actually see, that will go beyond. And I had some success with that, especially going into the red pill, the dating area and all that stuff, the whole trip into the manosphere, which, man, that is a cesspool. But these are things that I wanted to do. I wanted to help young men to actually become men, to go from boy to man. And so I tried to unify everything under this idea of masculinity and teaching guys to become men. Remember, there was a period of time where I said, I teach you how to get the physique you want, get the girls you want, make the money you want, basically. But it was those things, right? And so the thing is, though, when I was producing that content, I still didn't feel like it was really unified around this idea of becoming a man. I mean, obviously, it's all about becoming a man, because improving yourself as a man, that is your job, and that's who you become. I spent some time thinking about this, and I was trying to figure out, when I was on that group, my Entreprogrammers group, my mastermind, I was trying to figure out, if someone had to put me in a box, what's the box that I would actually want to be put in? Because I don't like labels. I don't like being put in a box. And I think you could say that he teaches boys to become men, but I don't know. Is that enough of what I'm actually showing people how to do, especially where I'm now selling a high-priced financial freedom product? Is that really the thing? Is that audience going to be the same audience that is the market for the thing that I'm selling? I'm running a business as well. So it really occurred to me, though, that the box that I would put myself in is I teach men how to become free in their lives. And so this is an idea I want to bounce by you guys. I mean, I want to bounce by myself, and I have it on my task list for today. Clearly define my box. What does it mean to teach men how to be free? What type of content buckets can I create around this topic? How does this change my slogan and my branding? Who else does this? That's kind of how I define these things. But what does it mean to be free? Now, I looked up the definition of freedom. The power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. So that's interesting. I mean, my definition of freedom, which was something that I was seeking, is the ability to execute your will upon the world. So the whole idea behind this, some people don't understand what this means. It means that the more that you're able to take what is your will, what is in your mind, what you conceptualize, and exercise that into the world to make it into reality, to become a creator, ultimately the father, the more your ability is to do that, the more free that you have. You think of the ultimate expression of freedom, it is God. The idea of God, whether you believe in God or whatever religion that you believe in, is this divine being who was able to take his thoughts and make them into reality. That is the ultimate expression of freedom. The more that we're able to take our thoughts and make them into reality, in fact, that's a more concise definition of freedom, the more that we are free as human beings. And as men, there's a certain connotation to that. I think overarching, there is this higher level of freedom that applies to all beings. But as a man, specifically on this earth, on this planet, in this society today, there is certain levels of freedom. There are certain things that make a man more free in his masculinity. It is the path that we seek to freedom. I think as we pass that, we could transcend that and we can have a more androgynous type of freedom. But in reality, for men today, if you're a young man, if you're watching this, I have to ask the question, what enslaves you? Are you a slave to pornography on the internet? Is that what you're a slave to? Many men are. Are you a slave to addiction, to food addiction, to sugar, to laziness, to sloth, to procrastination? Are you a slave to simping, to seeing girls on Instagram and every single girl in the world wears yoga pants now? Are you a slave to that, those desires that are unfulfilled in your life? Are you a slave to a boss, to a job, to working, to not having your freedom, to having to pay every month to unmortgage your life, because your life is mortgaged when you're born and you have to pay for food and shelter and all these things? Are you a slave to competing with the Joneses, to having the status and all these things? And so when I talk about freedom and I talk about freeing men, in my mind, it is all those things, because I went through a journey of freedom, and I'm still on this journey of freedom in my life and gaining more and more freedom. Jocko Willink says discipline equals freedom. It's awesome. That's true. There's a book by Harry Brown. I love this book. It's called How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World. It's a libertarian perspective of life. Very great principles in that book. And the Stoics, Seneca especially, has taught us freedom, because freedom in the sense of the Stoic sense, in the sense of the Buddhist sense, is this idea of making it so that the external does not determine your internal. You talk about Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning, and he found freedom in captivity in a Nazi prison camp. That is where he actually became became more free because of that and finding it there, because freedom is a mental state. It's a choice for the most part. And I think there's levels of freedom. And I talked about this before, and my highest thing that I seek and value in life is freedom. And there's a freedom where you can't do what you want to do. There's a second level of freedom where you're compelled, where you must do the thing. And there's a third level where you have the true freedom, where you can choose to do the things that you want to do and exercise them. And there's the things that block us from the freedom. We think that being in a prison cell would make us unfree, but that is not true. What actually makes us unfree is our mind, first of all, because in order to execute our will upon the world, we must first be able to execute our will within our body and within our mind itself. And so we are blocked first by our limiting beliefs. We are blocked by our inability. This is where fear comes in. You guys that have approach anxiety that can't go and talk to a girl. But it's not about some sleazy being a pickup artist. It's about seeing that girl over there and being able to do it, being able to go and talk to her and having that freedom. And it is in your mind. And that's where you're most restricted, many of you guys, because you can't even do that simple thing. You can't even see a girl and talk to her. And I was like that, and I had to gain that freedom for myself, and I had to work to develop that freedom. But once I did, I became so much more free in many other areas of my life. And that's where the freedom begins. It's in the mind. It's the fear. It's overcoming fear. It's also in the discipline of the mind. That's why I go and run endurance races. Ran a 50-mile race. I'm doing ultra marathon training again. And I teach you guys to do that. And I have my coaching clients run marathons. It's because you learn a lot about yourself when you're running 50 miles. You learn a lot of discipline. And that discipline allows me to execute, because what is enslaving you right now in your mind? It is your inability. It's your procrastination. It's your laziness. It's your inability to actually do the work. And once you overcome that and you develop the discipline and the mental toughness to actually grit and bear it and go through the things, you can accomplish so much. You can accomplish things physically. You can accomplish things spiritually. You can accomplish things, if you want, in relationships and dating with girls, and especially financially. It's holding you back. So the mental aspect of freedom is the thing that is holding you back the most. And then we have the freedom in the body. The freedom in the body is our ability to actually execute on this. If you want to go and explore the world and see the mountains and see nature, you need to be able to run for 20 miles through nature. It's not absolutely true, but it is a way. Like, if you're overweight, if your health is bad, if you don't have that level of freedom, the physicality, then you're limited. Even the same thing in your physique and looking good. If you don't look good as a man, and if you're not physically strong, it does limit your selection in the women that will be attracted to you and the options you have for your life and for a family and for the life that you want to live, because you want to live the optimal life. And so it limits your freedom. And so you're a slave to that. And then we talk about the financial side of things. This is where other people restrict you, is your ability to do things. You can't just get on an airplane and fly first class. You need money to do that. You can't just live somewhere. You need money to do that. So you have to develop that financial freedom as well, because you are a slave. You have to work. You have to do things in order to pay the bills. And all of those things come under this category of freedom. And so what is one way that you free yourself is through books, through knowledge, through wisdom. As you gain that knowledge, that is why I'm always reading a book, listening to an audiobook. How about even the freedom in relationships? Like the freedom to say no, the freedom to assert yourself, to build boundaries. The more you're able to assert your boundaries, the more free that you are as a man. If you allow people to disrespect you and treat you in a way that you don't want to be treated, you're consumed by walking on eggshells, by guilt, by trying to be the nice guy, by trying to be the people pleaser. These things bind you. They are slavery. They make you a slave to other people's desires. And maybe the biggest one of all is the approval of others. I talk about killing your father metaphorically, but not seeking approval from women. How do you cast off these chains? It is through accomplishment. It is through building yourself. It is through grit and mental discipline and working and building the knowledge of reading books and the wisdom that you gain in doing that. It is through going and approaching girls and talking to the girls that you want and achieving those accomplishments there, breaking through all those barriers so that you no longer seek their approval. You don't seek the approval of women, because you can get women. If you can't get women, you will seek their approval for the rest of your life. But when you can get women and you realize it's not all that, then you stop seeking their approval. When you start accomplishing things in your life and you become this man, this epitome of the top 1% man that I talk about, you don't need approval from your father. He needs your approval. It changes. You don't need approval from anyone else. You don't need their validation, because you validate yourself. You have self-efficacy. We talk about Maxwell Maltz, Dr. Maxwell Maltz's psychocybernetics. This idea that your self-image determines everything. I think the most powerful force in the universe is identity. And we craft that identity by what we know truly about ourselves. We truly know who we are, and it's by what we do. And so that's why we do great things. That's why we do hard things. That's why we accomplish these things. And so, I don't know, guys, this is where I'm at, is that I want to tie it all together. I want people to understand why I have these separate topics that I talk about as far as becoming a man and masculinity, and why are there books, and why is there fitness and running, and why is there talking to girls and relationships and Stoic philosophy. Why are all these things bundled together into one cohesive thing? It's because it's united by the idea of becoming free, which is the greatest aspiration of humanity. We've been seeking it out forever. You look at the country I'm living in, the United States, founded on the idea of freedom, the principle of freedom. Has it departed from that? Yes. All countries and all ideals have departed from the form, the basic form, as Plato would say. But what are we ultimately seeking in our lives? Every single one of us, it is freedom. It is the ability to execute our will upon the world, to manifest, to create, to be the Father, to actually create things. And that's why also I think programming had a pull on me, is because it is the ability to create. You're creating whole worlds, you're creating whole rules and systems and design, but I don't want to go too far from that. What I'm trying to say here is that where Bulldog Mindset is heading and where I am heading, and the thing that I believe is the box that you could put me in, that I would gladly be put in, is the box of teaching men to be free. And it'll be specifically men. I will say that because I am specifically tailored to that. I understand what it is to be a man. I have gone through the journey from being a boy to a man in my early 30s to becoming a man that I can confidently say that I am today. And I want to take you guys along on that journey and show you this. Now, it's a little bit different for me. I'm not Hamza. I'm not Nikhil, Captain Sinbad, our first man who is still on that journey to a very large degree and is just discovering it. I was. And that was a fun time. And you guys were along with me. A lot of you guys watching those videos and seeing me grow and develop and become that person. It doesn't mean that I have arrived either. I am simply a lot more free than most people, and I am exploring that freedom. And sometimes when you're there to a degree, it's hard to find the next level. And I'm pushing myself to find that next level because I no longer need the things. See, the thing is, when I was on that journey from boy to man, and that's why I say, if I have arrived, it is only that I have arrived to this waypoint in my journey. But at that time, I was seeking external validation and I had to cast that off. And you guys watched me do that. And I was seeking approval. And I had to cast that off, and I didn't have boundaries, and I had to cast that off, and I was lazy, and I had to cast that off, and I was enslaved by so many things that bound me. My emotions bound me. My inability to go and face my fears and conquer them, they bound me. And even the financial aspect of it, as I grew and developed and became financially free, all those things had bound me. And so I'm not bound by any of those things anymore. So I'm in a weird place, as I don't need to cure the disease anymore. It doesn't mean that I am 100% free. There's still some things to do and teach, but my method of teaching has to evolve. It can no longer be you following me on my journey, because I'm not on the same journey as many of you guys are, not anymore. So now I am at the challenge of trying to not only maintain where I am, because you cannot rest on your laurels. That's why I'm out there running the mountains and I'm finding new things to push me to the next level. But at the same time as maintaining that and continuing to be that man, because it can slip from your fingers, and it has from time to time for me, and I have to re-grasp it, and I have found it again. But I also have to dispense that wisdom and figure out the best way to dispense that wisdom, because it's no longer the same voice. It's no longer the voice of me alongside you taking this journey with you, because I've already taken that journey. I'm on a different journey, but I still want to help you. And there's not very many people that are out there that are on the same journey as me right now, because now I'm transitioning from the stage. I went from boy to man, and now I'm going from man to elder to a degree, if that makes sense to you. I'm still a man. I'm not an old man. That is the journey that I will be embarking upon. And that journey will be one of teaching you and myself how to become more free.